So good morning, everybody. I I am thrilled and looking forward to our fantastic session on creating a global learning community through digital storytelling. Uh, before we start, I would like to introduce our two participants, Sheila Marie Earth and Tom McKay. And let me more introduce them in a few words, and then we will move on to our session. So Sheila Marie Earth is Associate Professor, European Director of International Programs, SUNY Empire State College. She's actually in Europe right now in Prague. So good evening, Sheila.
Thank you.
Sheila has been overseeing actually the college's 4 international locations. She received her Ph.D. in Latin and Caribbean history and master degree MA in history from Howard University. During her final year of research at Howard University, she was awarded the prestigious Sasakawa Fellowship from the Nippon Foundation in Japan. Dr. Aird also holds a BA in anthropology and an MA in anthropology with the focus on historical archaeology from the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs at Syracuse University. Dr. Aird has presented her work both domestically and internationally, and we're thrilled to have her with us today. And our second presenter will be Dr. Thomas McKay, who is Professor of Arts and Media at SUNY Empire State College. He is the recipient of the 2021 Dr. Susan H. Turban Chair in Mentoring Award. His teaching and research focus on meta-literacy, a model he originated with Trudy Jacobson as a pedagogical framework for reflective teaching and learning. Dr. McKay co-authored 2 books about meta-literacy, added 2 additional volumes, and has written peer-reviewed articles about this topic. In addition to his teaching at SUNY Empire, he has developed several MOOCs, including Coursera, Empowering Yourself in a Post-Through World. I am very excited to introduce them both and to learn from them what kind of storytelling we can do these days to really advance our commitment to SDG agenda. So, Tom and Sheila, take it away.
Oh, Joanna, thank you very much. You've included our bios and who we are. So I think we probably can just get into our presentation at this time. I'll tell you quickly, Dr. Mackey and I co-teach this course. And I'm in Prague, and he's in New York, upstate New York. And what we've done is bridged, excuse me, we've bridged the gap. So we have international students from Prague, and we have students from not only New York, different parts of the state, as well as Dr. Mackey has an international student as well, taking the New York portion of the course. So today, and Dr. Mackey and I will take turns kind of jumping in there. The title of our presentation is Creating a Global Learning Community Through Digital Storytelling. So we'd like to share with you our process, how we've gotten to where we are today with this particular course. And hope that you'll participate with us and enjoy our presentation. Dr. Mackey?
Thank you, Dr. Aird. And I just want to say, too, that we appreciate being able to talk about this within the context of this conference, which has been so inspiring. Everyone has a story to tell, and I think that we are going to show how important it is, how important storytelling is to the SDGs. And I think this will also help the further development of this course, which has really been ongoing. We'd like to start with a survey. So we just want to get a sense from everyone in terms of what your understanding is of digital storytelling. So we're using this Mentimeter, and we're going to put the direct link in the chat. So if you just click on that link, you'll be able to see this panel to the right where you can just put in 3 words or phrases. And just what is your understanding of digital storytelling? You can also use the QR code that appears on the screen, and it does work. So if you just if you want to do this with your cell phone, just move it up to the screen, take a picture of it, and you'll be able to access this link. And I can just show you what the link looks like. So here it is. So you would just type in, again, a word.
I put it in.
Phrase. So is that in the chat box now?
Yes, I put it in the chat box.
Excellent, excellent. So let's just give everyone some time to do that, and then we can take a look at the responses, and then we'll look at the official, one of the official definitions of digital storytelling. But I think it'll be really helpful just to have a sense of what your understanding of it is at this point. And I can just show as the responses come in. Oh, this is fantastic. So far we have social media, sharing, online, engaging with others, context, innovative, personal, emotion, netizen engagement. That's fantastic. That's a great phrase. Reflection, connecting, emotion, right? Many sort of individual stories. There's that emotional component, that affective piece that really is so key. Dr. Aird, what do you think of these words?
I think they're perfect, and they're all pieces of what digital storytelling is.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting to see, because I don't want to influence people in terms of putting in their words.
Yeah.
But I think there's a vast amount of not only words, but expressions and feelings and different attributes that can all fit under the umbrella of digital storytelling.
Right. And it's so interesting, at the very beginning of our presentation, obviously the folks who are interested in this, they have a very good sense, I think, of what some of these key components would be. We know we know how important storytelling has been throughout history, and it's interesting to think about storytelling, the construction of narratives within these social information environments that have this digital component. So it looks like those are the main words. I'll go back to the presentation, and again, we can look at that later as well. But we really appreciate your feedback on that. I think you've captured that really well. We wanted to start with this official definition. This is from the EDUCAUSE Learning Initiative, ELI. And I think this also captures it, that it's really a practice of combining narrative with digital content. So it is that sort of integration of narrative elements through digital formats. And again, that includes images, sound, video, short movie. And it does have that strong emotional component. So a few people put in that emotional piece that really does help propel the narrative forward. And I think from a student perspective, it really creates a sense of real meaning in terms of what they want to produce and share. So
and I'd like to add to that really quickly that also digital storytelling allows students to have some sort of agency.
Yes.
Because a story, to make a story believable and authentic, and it has to be organic, and it has to come from a place. Yeah. And so whether it's interviews of people in the community, whether it is documentary and film, whether it's even TikTok videos, because now TikTok videos are huge. And some of them, there's social activism in it. There's a lot of forms and a lot of ways that we can look at the importance of and the usefulness of digital storytelling.
Such a great point. So now we're going to move forward with talking about our collaboration. Sheila?
Okay, yeah, thank you. So the course Digital Storytelling is a fully online course that Dr. Mackey and I both co-teach. It's very popular, with students from multiple disciplines. So we have an interdisciplinary spin on it, and even in terms of the projects and different things. Dr. Mackey and I were experienced online because we've been teaching, oh my God, close to 15 years online. And in fall of 2019, we decided to combine our sections. Instead of me just teaching it in Prague and he teaching it in New York, we decided to combine the students from the international locations in Prague and Tirana. And we have Dr. Mackey had some students from Canada this year. He has one from Cyprus, and bring them all together into this community that we've created to see what was going to be the interaction, the engagement. So the question is, how does it work? So we team teach in the fall and spring term. We developed this online global community that is inclusive and collaborative. Students produce individual products. So we kind of start them out very simply with a welcome selfie, and we allow them to, however they wish to introduce themselves. They can do it in an animated form if they don't want to be on camera, or they can use their own image and tell us a little bit about themselves. And from the beginning, we get them accustomed to creating a script and a storyboard. So we start off kind of easy with this step-by-step approach. And we allow the students, as they grow in the course, because they come in at different levels. Some students are more technologically savvy. Some students know how to create different short montages and different little video snippets. Others do not. So we bring them in at the same level and allow them to teach each other and help each other to gain the knowledge and the skills while understanding who they are as meta-literate learners. Now, what are meta-literate learners, we say, Dr. Mackey?
We will definitely be getting into that, because
yes,
we're going to talk about how meta-literacy, which is this framework that I've been developing with Trudy Jacobson, how we've really incorporated that into the course. But let's look at some of the key, continue looking at some of the key elements of the class.
Okay, so we have implemented throughout the course peer reviews, and that helps to close the gap, or the sense of just kind of being on your own in the class. So the students have to review each other's submissions, whether they're discussion posts and or small projects that they're initially doing. And Dr. Mackey and I give them private feedback. But within the course, the students speak to each other and ask questions, comment on, offer advice. And they might say, well, your video was good, but your audio was a little shaky and we didn't quite understand this. So they end up developing a relationship early in the course and being accepting of feedback, respective feedback, so that everybody learns, hopefully. We've set up a rubric so that they know from the very beginning how they're graded for each project as well as discussions. So they can go right to the rubric, and if they say, well, I don't know why I got this grade, well, the rubric will tell you why you got the grade. And if they want to further discuss with us, of course they can. Rubrics are applied throughout the course. We really push for timely feedback, formative feedback, and we use the rubric to guide us in that feedback. And we're constantly impressing upon the student how important time management is and awareness of time difference. Because I'm in Prague, we're in New York, we have a 6-hour time difference. So it's learning to manage your time, whatever your geographical location is. And we also feel this is practical experience for the real world, because as we tell students, you might get a job where your CEO is on one continent and your team is based around the world. How do you engage? How do you respond? How do you respect everyone's time and the difference in the geographical locations?
Yeah, and that awareness for the global community that we're building in the course is so important. And the other piece I just want to mention again to reinforce that point, that the students really appreciate the peer reviews. They value our opinions, but they always say at the end of the class how much they appreciated hearing from their classmates about the work that they're doing. So let's look at some of the course revisions too, Dr. Aird, that we added to the course as this ongoing process.
Yes, so we have done, I don't know if we should say multiple revisions or multiple upgrades. At the end of the semester, before the new semester starts, Dr. Mackey and I meet, we sit down over Zoom and discuss what we think worked, what we think might need to be tweaked. And we go ahead and do that because we want to make sure everything is scaffolding. We're not just throwing them in there and saying, okay, knock it out, give us a Pulitzer Prize film, and we're ready to go. So we constantly are looking at it, trying to improve it. We use ebooks and online OER, open education resources. Animation Block is a new website that we've included. And then we use, we have many free. The majority of the tools in the course are free. And we use now digital tools for producing the narratives, include our own SUNY Empire Learnscape. And Dr. Mackey, you could talk about why we even included that.
Sure, and we always try to incorporate student feedback, and we've shared with students ways to publish their projects on YouTube or Vimeo, other platforms. And some students are not totally comfortable with producing something and then publishing it in a more public forum. So we have worked with our Learnscape platform, which is built on Kaltura. And what it allows is students to create their videos, publish it, but then it's only limited to, they can then link to it in Moodle and it doesn't become something that's publicly available. So we developed this whole, an entire tutorial built around that. So we always appreciate that kind of feedback. And then we leave it up to the students. Some students who want to publish it, that's their choice. And others who want to keep it in more private settings. And the ebooks is really important for any international collaboration, that the OER aspect and the fact that all the students in the class have access to our online library has just been a big help. And we've actually found ebooks that allowed us to go beyond the books that we were using that also provide for more diverse perspectives, which has been another benefit of doing that.
Absolutely, because what we also know, and this is not only specific to students in Europe, even students in the US have difficulty financing their books. And so we try to do everything we could to make sure that all the resources were easily accessible, regardless of the student's geographical location, so that they could participate in the course.
So let's continue again talking through the course that we've developed and the approach that we've taken. And we also added these synchronous real-time features that have added a great deal, I think, to the course.
Yeah, so some of the real-time features, we do Zoom chats with the students, with us, and we have guests. And so last semester, we had an international filmmaker who's based in Prague come into the Zoom chat and offer just basic information to the students to help them think about the process and what they're doing when they're trying to create a video. And it could be that they want to document their grandmother's story or a relative's story, and what that process should look like and what they should do. The meetings are usually synchronous because we have to set a time. So we usually do it so that it's later in the day in Prague, because my international students are out having a life. And so, and our students in New York, they oftentimes are working. And so their schedule, they have families, they have children, so they have a different schedule. So we try and do it usually on a Saturday so that we can include everyone. And we also, excuse me, have put in the course where Zoom meeting is required for their final project initially. So they must get together on Zoom, each team that we put together, and begin the process of developing who's going to be responsible for what, how this project is going to lay out, and whose job is whose job.
Excellent. And here's one additional feature too. We've developed a digital storytelling blog, and we've also been developing a public history virtual museum that's built on a project that Dr. Aird actually started several years ago.
Several years ago, like a million years ago.
It feels like it, right?
It does, it does. So we're still working on it. We put the link up, but we're still working on it because the purpose of the museum is to invite students who do really good projects to put their work in the museum. It allows the students, like if they go on to a master's program or they just want to share it with their family and friends, they're able to link it to the museum, and it's a forever place. So we've started building it, and we're going to finish probably this semester, definitely, putting the final touches on it. And then I think it's an excellent idea and place for students to see their work instead of just, oh, I did this project in the class and, you know, it's kind of gone, or I saved pieces of it. They can actually link to it, and it'll stay in our museum forever. And each semester, we're going to add more and more projects to it.
Excellent. So this is all, we are doing this deep dive into the course to explain the course, to discuss all these different elements leading up to how we see this in support of the SDGs. One other key aspect of the class that we'd like to talk about is how we've embedded this meta-literacy concept into digital storytelling. And I want to introduce the concept here, and I think you'll be able to see the alignment between what this model is and sort of how it supports digital storytellers. So basically, the meta-literacy model is one that supports learners as individual, collaborative producers of information in social information environments. And in this model, this is intended to show the different components of the model, how it is holistic in nature, with a learner, meta-literate learner at the center. And you can see these sort of spheres or rings outside of the meta-literate learner. So I'll just kind of go through these. One is the meta and meta-literacy. One of the uses of that prefix is the idea that it has a strong connection to metacognition, that learners are reflective throughout their educational journey. But with meta-literacy, it also is within the context of 4 learning domains that also include the affective. And we've seen how important that is, that emotional component to telling a story. Also the cognitive, sort of what students think about these issues, and behavioral, the kinds of skills that they develop as well. And as you've seen what we've described so far, it's very much all of those things. So it's about gaining digital storytelling skills, how to do things, but it goes much deeper than that. It's sort of how we understand information, how we produce information, and also how we really understand ourselves as learners. The next ring then is sort of these characteristics that we want students to gain. So in many ways, these are kind of like outcomes, the fact that we want students to be adaptable and open to new learning experiences, productive. We want them to be informed with the kind of information they engage with. We want them to be collaborative. We want to support them in being collaborative individuals, participatory, and understanding what it means to be a participant. Of course, the reflective piece, which is the metacognitive component, and of course, being civic-minded. So what is it to be a member of a community, whether it's in person or online? What are your responsibilities as an individual? And especially if you think about the kinds of challenges we face today with misinformation, disinformation, what's often been called the world, that piece, sort of understanding what your contribution is to these environments and understanding what your ethical responsibilities are, I think is a real key piece that also works well within the context of this course. The outer ring of this model is really the roles that individuals play. And it really started with this idea of learner as producer, and that idea has been around for certainly some time. But what we try to do is really expand it. We really try to emphasize learner as producer, but then also expand those roles that are related to being a producer of information and the kinds of choices that we make. So an individual as a publisher, a researcher, a participant, a communicator, translator, author, and teacher. And it's so interesting that this idea of roles is really key because it's learners then think about the roles and responsibilities they have and not just particular skills that they're trying to gain or particular outcomes. It really is sort of who they are as a learner and what their responsibilities are. So that's just kind of a quick overview of the meta-literacy model and looking at it through this model. I would like to emphasize the roles because, then I'm going to show you how we've built this into digital storytelling. And I think you can see here how these roles are really important to being a digital storyteller, that individuals are researchers that are looking at information. They're trying to make informed choices about the information that they seek and gather. They're looking for bias in the information, but they're also looking at, because it's a reflective learner process, they're also looking at their own biases and constantly building that into their learning process. The idea of being a communicator, what is their role as a communicator? Are they conscientious in sort of how they communicate ideas, how they produce and share ideas in different formats and different forums? What is it to be an author, especially in this digital environment, because it goes beyond text? It also means being a digital author, an author of multimedia content and film and digital stories. And of course, this key role of producer, which I think in many ways is that pivotal role within this model that really relates to all the others, so that learners really think about their responsibilities in producing user-generated content. And in this course, we get them to think right away about their roles in developing their role as a producer in developing selfies and digital images, video, and multimedia. So this is something that's, I've written about extensively with Trudy Jacobson, but just visually that gives you a quick snapshot of the model. And now I'd just like to show how this is built into the course. And what's interesting, through this teaching collaboration with Dr. Aird, I had components of it in my version of the course, but through our conversation, Dr. Aird was saying, well, let's try to build even more into it, which was really, I think, has been a key point in the course. So these are just some ways that we've embedded these concepts into the class. The very first assignment, students, we asked them to do a selfie video where they introduce themselves to the course, and they also they talk about which role they identify with the most. Then in another assignment, we ask students to reflect on their learning, and they do so through an analysis of the learning domains, so the extent to which they are metacognitive, behavioral, affective, and cognitive, and the characteristics. So they actually write a midterm self-assessment. And again, not just, hey, this is what I did in the course, but really applying this theory to their own learning. Then throughout the course, and in a final selfie video, because again, the characteristics are in many ways those attributes that are closely aligned with outcomes, we have students think about the characteristics that they've gained throughout the course. And we've used throughout the course this interactive meta-literate learner model that has been developed through the Meta-Literacy Learning Collaborative. And you can see this dynamic model that's been developed by Kelsey O'Brien, who's a part of the Meta-Literacy Learning Collaborative. It's an open resource, and when you click on different components, you can see questions that we've developed to help really explain the model and the different components, which we've really found incredibly useful in the course. And then, so those are in many ways sort of an individual moving through the class. Dr. Aird had mentioned this key component at the end of the class. Students really develop a collaborative project, so they are being collaborators, and in a final project that really is about collaborating for a cause. So that's the theme. And what's interesting here is that, again, we use the meta-literacy model because we have a set of questions about the collaborator role. So they use that interactive diagram, and we have them do an online discussion where they explore what is it to be a collaborator. And because there are often challenges with this kind of collaborative team project, we have found that raising this from the perspective of meta-literacy and being a collaborator has really added a depth to the course and to the project that we haven't had before. As part of this, then the students work together. This is just one example of just an incredible project that students developed. Racism Stop Asian Attacks, which is really about their analysis of what's been happening in the United States, unfortunately, because of this violence against Asian Americans, because of all the terrible rhetoric and misinformation about the COVID crisis. So for students to engage in such a serious topic and to take that on and develop research around this, and then to turn this into a story, a collaborative story, has really been just an empowering experience. Don't you think, Dr. Aird?
Absolutely, absolutely. And this final project that they do, it's a social cause, and so they have to pick something that has to do with the social issue. And so students might pick and discuss in their group. It might be racism, it might be homophobia, it might be this particular one, violence against Asians. Our initial first time that we did this, just about everybody did it on COVID. So we tried to take that, but then not stop them from discussing COVID and what they felt and what they experienced, but to expand the ways by which they could look at this final project as a group. Because in that final project, we mix students from New York and the international community. So this way, and we have a process, if we have time, that we can talk about how we even do that. And everybody is assigned by the team leader in tandem with each other, a particular part of the project that they are responsible for. So from the very beginning, they've got to collaborate. They've got to figure it out. They've got to do a time frame. And who's going to be responsible for the script, the storyboard, the production, the editing. If there's going to be music, everybody has to agree what type of music are we going to use. And everything that we use, we usually use from a Creative Commons site. So they understand you can't just pick something out of the air because, oh, I love that beat or I love that sound and I want to put that in. No. So we try and bring all these important issues to them as we're guiding them towards their final project.
So let's now, obviously a core question for this conference, and we'll move through this. we think it really supports several of the SDGs. For this presentation, we really highlight two, and then we're going to ask your thoughts on this. Hopefully we'll have time. So we see this as really supporting quality education and also reduced inequalities. And I think we've hinted at how that is, but we'll kind of summarize our take on this of how it supports this goal. And Dr. Ayer, did you want to start with this one, and then I'll just the next?
Sure. So as Dr. Mackey said, how does digital storytelling support the goals in question? So we thought, going back and looking at everything through the course, we created a course where students can, first of all they need is a cell phone. So the majority of students, everybody has a cell phone. So they learn how to use that technology and have equitable access to free digital tools. If they want to purchase a digital tool, that's their prerogative. But we have a plethora of tools in the course that are absolutely free, so we're not creating additional burden for students to have to purchase the software that they may or may not use again. The meta-literacy framework is built in from the absolute beginning of the course, because we want them to be proactive learners, and we want them to understand themselves as well as their classmates. We do a lot of individual, but also most of it is collaborative learning, because we try and get them to have trust in each other from the very beginning. And that comes through with the peer reviews, that comes through with the feedback, that comes through with people developing a community within the virtual online environment, so that everybody feels a part. When a student posts something, then they are to reply to 2 other students' posts. And we tell them, if you have time, please reply to more, because this allows everybody to get feedback and everybody to be participatory in the class. Inclusivity is definitely a part of it, because we make that a point throughout the course, in the discussions and the peer reviews, etc. So Dr. Mackey, part 2.
All right, so just some of this really, the idea of using the open educational resources also supports quality education. It's providing students with quality materials and helps them save money. We also have them participate in the process where they seek out Creative Commons images, and they get to think about whether or not they want to even license their work. It's not required, of course, but they have that chance. And they develop skills throughout this process that really expands their knowledge, both personally and professionally. And then in terms of goal 10, how we see this connected, the asynchronous format itself allows for flexibility, so that no matter where a student is in the world, they can join this course, they can be a part of it, and they can participate. So that really helps their learning experience on really every level. We also find that students really develop a mutual respect for each other and their culture and their countries. They learn about each other through this process. And it's interesting with the meta-literacy model too, students have said that they learn about themselves, but they better understand their classmates by going through that process, because they understand the learning process itself. We also find that, these collaborative projects can be challenging, but students do work through it, and they work through time differences and differences in viewpoints as well, and that's just rewarding for them to engage on that level and to try and figure that out. They also learn about digital tools because they're open tools, and they share knowledge about troubleshooting. So in the student cafe, they'll help each other out in terms of using particular tools. They've also focused on a range of social issues that we've mentioned. They've really, we encourage them to have a voice in their discussions and their stories. And again, the meta-literacy models help them through this. So I'm gonna kind of move through this quickly so we can get to some questions. We had this Padlet set up, I think what I'll do is send this out through Twitter and make it available so you could work on it asynchronously. But since we only have 4 minutes, I think we're going to have to jump to the Q&A.
Right, I put it in. It's so that if people want to copy it. But yep, if we have any questions, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, so that's a great idea. We can do this while we're doing the Q&A, so that the idea here is that we've explained how we think digital storytelling supports the SDGs, but what ideas do you have? So in supporting either 2 that we mentioned, quality education, number 4, and reduced inequalities, number 10, but we think it also supports gender equality. So do you have ideas about that? And then here's some other questions. How does digital storytelling support any of the other SDGs? And how might you apply this in your teaching? So great idea. We'll let that stand. But let's open it up for the last few minutes for questions.
Great, thank you so much, both Dr. McKay and Dr. Aird. It's wonderful, exciting, engaging, and it's really making the learning so different when there's so much interactions. I am in a very unstable internet. I've been losing you many times. So if something happens, please know that I just didn't leave you. So any questions? I'm looking at the chat. If not, I actually have a question to both of you. So I was fascinated by this meta-literacy is model. And how do students respond to it? Are there parts of the model that students really engage far more than with the others?
Can I?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because but what we have found is that students find it fascinating and interesting, and it makes them identify, instead of someone telling them, you're this, you're that, whatever, they self-identify. And it's absolutely fantastic. Dr. Mack, did you have any more? And then someone asked a question.
Right. I think it's really allowed us to get beyond skills development, which is really what meta-literacy is about. They learn about themselves and each other. I had students over the summer using the same course where students said that it actually changed her life. It changed her perspective. And we've had that too from students who gain new insights sort of about themselves and their learning. So it's been really a key part of it, and the alignment between meta-literacy and digital storytelling is something that we're going to continue in our teaching and our research too. So we're planning on doing some additional presentations and writing about that connection.
Great. And the question is, you mentioned learn to identify quality in openly licensed images, music, and videos for the project. Yeah. May I ask the expert, what are your favorite open access learning tools to help students?
We love the Creative Commons. And it's interesting with that too, is that we also encourage students to develop their own original content. So we really want them to go out and take an original digital photograph, a digital image, or a video. But if they enhance their video with something beyond that, we really want them to use openly licensed materials. There's some other sort of open access sites like Pixabay that is okay too, as long as it has that open license. And they have found some things too that are openly licensed. I think we're big fans of the Creative Commons, but the first thing we try to do is really to get them to produce original content, and then for them also to understand this distinction between what's original and what's reproduced or repurposed.
Right. Great. Okay, I think on that note, we were told to go back to main stage. So I really want to thank both of you so much for. Somebody, what was your best SDG project focus on? Well, I'm not sure that we can continue, but I wanted to thank you both for engaging us and telling us a great story.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Joanna, thank you.
Thank you, Sheila, and thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.